Next Sunday we have the beginning of Holy Week, and there we need to keep in mind that really the first big day of Holy Week is Palm Sunday, which symbolically commemorates the entry of Jesus into the holy city of Jerusalem at the moment when everybody thinks that he's going to be proclaimed king, and so instead of that he was crucified, which quite often happens. It is the beginning of the drama of Easter. Now, what we should keep in mind, therefore, for the week is that next Sunday is Palm Sunday, which is the commemoration of his entry into Jerusalem. And then the next important days are Thursday, of course in the evening. So Thursday evening, which is Maundy Thursday, and that's a very solemn occasion, the commemoration of the last Eucharist, of the last Supper. And then is Good Friday, which is of course the commemoration of the death, and Holy Saturday, which already foreshadows and brings to us intimations of the resurrection, which generally is celebrated Sunday morning. So these are all the commemoration of various events in the New Testament which pertain to the mysterious festival of Easter. Now, as a little preparation probably for that, what we need to keep in mind today, which in turn, after all these holidays have been denominated, it was also ordained that the Sunday before Palm Sunday would be the Passion Sunday, as it is called, and by that Passio is the Latin word for suffering. So I would say that every day of the week on this earth is a Passion Sunday in that sense. But that apparently is not enough, and so we need to keep that in mind. And so in order to especially bring to our attention that symbol, the altar cross, which is the cross on the altar, is veiled in violet, and on Maundy Thursday it will be veiled in white. But it is the calling attention to the symbolism of the cross, and perhaps also already of the symbolism of the crucifixion. Now, at this particular time, because there will be plenty of time for that later on, that is, of course, if we are all here, namely on Thursday and Friday and Saturday, we need to remember that the symbolism of the cross is manifold. And this happens. It happens in many of the Gnostic scriptures. If you study them adequately, it happens in the New Testament. Namely, that the symbolism that any particular occasion brings has several meanings. And so, what meanings does the cross have? And we can discuss that further on Maundy Thursday or so. The symbolism of the cross indicates that the Logos, the Word of God, the divine spark, is crucified on the cross of matter. east, west, north, south. And on it, the Godhead is crucified. Now, this may sound a little bit too wild to some people, but I think that if we apply it to our life experiences, then it's really anything but wild. I think it indicates that, as a poet in one of the hymns that one of the hymnals contains had written, God in man is crucified. And I can't think of the name of the poet, but he was the big friend of Bishop Leadbeater's, and he was the brother of quite a famous poet and playwright. So we'll have to probably rack our brains as to who he really was. In any event, God in man is crucified, and not only in man, but on the earth, on the trees. Mani's wonderful visions indicate when he goes and looks and says, "O my Lord Jesus, who art crucified hanging on every tree." So you might say that you prefer the symbolism of Easter Bunny to that. But I don't really, because I think the an apprehension of the manifold symbolism of Easter, along with the crucifixion, going toward the resurrection, is of very great importance. And I would be absolutely uttering a very bad lie if I said that in the 93 years of my life I have not experienced the crucifixion and haven't seen the world and humanity and my homeland crucified. Why? Because it is within the divine will that it should be such. We are not matter. We have a body, but we have a body just like we have a coffee container in the kitchen. It's just something that is there, and the coffee container has its uses. And so does the rest of the symbolism. But what we need to remember here, that suffering, which comes from the Latin into English, subferro, means to undergo. Suffering is to undergo earthly life. And you say, well, can't we do without it? Well, maybe at some point we will, but I tell you, there are not too many people around, especially not this day here, but everywhere, not too many people around who have not undergone the difficulties of earthly life. Just being here. I think a poet wrote once, maybe you know which poet, it sounds sort of Shakespearean. He said, the child is wise, the babe is wise, because it cries when it comes into this world. And might as well realize that particular wisdom also. So let us say the passio, the passion, is undergoing suffering. Now, what else do we experience? We of course experience that but we also need to look forward to while we experience, and let me assure you that with the passage of time, when you get to a high age, as I have, you undergo all kinds of things. So the suffering is there. Can't even go up a flight of stairs without the apprehension and that you will fall on it and break a bone and so forth. So when we get to this world, we are undergoing events which probably in the higher spiritual realms from whence apparently we have come do not exist. And so here we come into limitation. And that limitation is certainly symbolized by the little child that cries because he took a look at this world and said, "Oh no, not this place again," or something to that effect. That's the voice that I hear in any event. But on the other hand, it is also at a higher level, or you might say a more symbolic level. We are crucified. We are on the cross. We are nailed to the cosmos, south, west, north. And then which one did I leave out? North, perhaps. In any event, we are crucified on the cross of matter. And all the various things that we run into, some of the pleasant ones, but also a lot of the ones that are far from pleasant, are the result of this condition of God in man is crucified. Because the essence within us, which is Madame Blavatsky's word, the essence within us, the divine essence, is the one that experiences and, as we might say in some modern terms, processes the suffering. When we can distill, as the alchemists do, when we can distill the suffering, it can change eventually into a resurrection. So you might say that, as a dear lady whom I remembered this morning, she was, I don't think she got to be 100, but she was fairly close to it, who used to come to our church, was one to say that the undergoing of experience is our task, and when we have undergone enough, then we may have merited a greater and more wonderful condition. So these are all things that may need to be kept in mind. One of them that we are here in, and we have been placed in a condition of limitation. That is the crucifixion. And if you want to look at it from a little closer, then you can say that we are here crucified on the cross of matter, because once again, as William Butler Yeats, the poet, says, and I love to quote him, that he said that he is shackled to a dying animal. It's quite an unpleasant image. But don't you think that you have experienced enough of life to know that much of it is indeed unpleasant of course. If you can't accept that, then you probably won't experience the pleasant things either, because we experience things by contrast. You see, that is, for instance, the nature and of the effect of well, unpleasant things. Let us say, when by some mischance we put in front of us, or had put in front of us, a badly prepared meal. Now, you didn't expect me to say that, did you? But let us say an unpleasant culinary experience is part of our crucifixion. Don't the Roman soldiers in the New Testament reach up water and wine and vinegar and water on a sponge to the crucified Christ? So you see that even the difficulties, let's say, that we must put into our bodies eventually redound to various difficulties. So the important thing is that these series of meanings, these are the message of the Palestinian mystery play, as a good friend of Gerald Heard, who wrote a mystery play about it, and of the philosopher denote. We are experiencing a drama. The drama is the drama of the divine soul as manifest in the Christmas story, that comes down to earth, and that seemingly, at least in an earthly sense, finishes its career here with the crucifixion. East, west, north, south. What could be more confining than being nailed to a material cross? Most certainly so. So we need to keep these matters in mind. And in so doing, we should also see that that's not the end. That's not the end of the story. The end of the story is something even more amazing, although not as painful as the previous one, which is resurrection. Resurrection. What is resurrection? The divine soul, as some people call it, the divine seed in the human, is liberated from its physical container and goes back to its own destined and glorious occasion. So we have to keep all that in mind. The cross of a crucifixion on the cross of matter, but also the symbol of the resurrection, that all material difficulties are shed, are left behind, and the resurrected Christ rises gloriously to his Father's house. And he and his disciple, St. Paul of Tarsus, said that we have, in a mystical sense, that Christ inside of us. So inside of us there is a divine being that is, well, maybe also temporarily crucified, but not to remain there, but to come forth. To come forth and go home and thereby showing us the way as to what we are really here for. So now all of this may sound a little bit weird, except for those who have read a lot of weird books, listened to a lot of weird sermons and lectures, maybe even from people like myself, but they will get a feeling as to what this is about. It is a process of becoming free. It is a process of coming into our own after many, many ages, and by coming into our own, fulfilling our real, our deific, our Christ-like destiny. It's there. And we have the symbolism there every Easter. So you may hear a little bit about this next week if you come back for some of the Easter ceremonies. But the important thing is that while on the road there are many difficulties, there is much suffering, there is illness, there is death, there are the depredations of humans upon each other. But that is not the end. The end is a mystery, and a glorious mystery, a wondrous mystery. And if we unite ourselves inwardly with that mystery, then we will experience it. And maybe with God's grace and the salvation brought by the Logos, we may experience it, at least to some extent, this Easter. The suffering, the death on the cross, and the coming back to such a marvelous condition, place, where the divine has come from and where it goes. And that also pertains to the divine within ourselves. And so may the mystery of that which hangs twixt heaven and earth descend upon us and remain with us always.